Every morning, before the city even yawned, an old man would appear at the corner near the bus terminal. He pushed a small, rusted cart with a wobbly wheel, setting up shop beside a cracked sidewalk. A faded sign hung from it: "Hot coffee, $1." His hands trembled a little as he poured the steaming coffee. His back was bent, and his clothes, though clean, were worn thin by time. To the office workers who hurried past, he was just another old man trying to survive, invisible. Some would even laugh quietly. "Why doesn't he just quit?" one young man muttered. "He should be resting, not working," another said, shaking his head. They never knew his name. They never asked. And they could never imagine what those trembling hands had once been capable of. The old man's name was Ethan Hawley. 30 years ago, those same hands climbed sheer cliffs in the dead of night, gripping cold rock without ropes. They had carried wounded soldiers across hostile terrain while bullets whistled through the air. They had disarmed explosives with mere seconds left on the timer. Those hands belonged to an elite forces operator, one of the best his unit had ever seen. Back then, Ethan didn't sell coffee. He led men into places that didn't exist on any map. He was chosen for a unit so secret, even his family never knew where he went. Missions were whispered, never written down. Success meant silence. Failure meant never coming home. He trained harder than anyone. When others slept, he ran. When others quit, he stayed. Not for medals, he never got any, but because lives depended on him. On one classified mission, his team was trapped behind enemy lines. Their extraction was compromised, and ammunition was running low. Panic started to creep in, but not for Ethan. He took command. For 36 hours straight, he guided his team through enemy territory, rationing water, carrying the injured, and staying awake while others collapsed from exhaustion. When they finally reached safety, every single man made it out alive. All because of him. The mission was buried, classified. There were no headlines, no applause. Just another day in the life of an elite soldier. But time is undefeated. After years of service, Ethan's body began to fail him. A knee injury that never fully healed, hearing loss in one ear, a back that ached constantly. When he retired, the world had moved on. There were no parades, no hero's welcome. His small pension barely covered the rent. His wife passed away quietly after a long illness, and his children, busy with their own lives, lived far away. So Ethan did what he had always done. He adapted. He bought a used coffee cart with his savings and learned to make the strongest coffee in the neighborhood. He arrived early, he left late. And he never, ever complained. Weak men complain, he believed. One cold morning, a group of young men stood near his cart, laughing loudly. One of them deliberately bumped into the cart, spilling hot coffee all over the ground. "Watch it, old man," the kid sneered. "Your hands shaking or something?" The others roared with laughter. Ethan looked at the spilled coffee, then at the kid. His eyes were calm, steady. "No problem," he said softly. "It happens." That quiet calm irritated them more than any angry outburst could have. "Pathetic," one of them muttered as they walked away. Ethan said nothing. He never had to prove himself. A week later, chaos erupted near the terminal. A masked man grabbed a woman, pressing a knife to her throat. People screamed and pulled out their phones, but no one moved closer. Except Ethan. He gently set his coffee cup down. He watched the attacker's stance, his grip, his breathing. Years of training, dormant for so long, woke up inside him. When the attacker turned his head for just a fraction of a second, Ethan moved. In 3 seconds, it was over. The knife was gone. The attacker was on the ground, his wrist locked in a hold that made it impossible for him to move. Ethan's knee was pressed firmly into his back, not enough to break bones, just enough to control him completely. Police arrived moments later, staring in disbelief at the old coffee vendor holding down a violent criminal with perfect technique. "Who taught you that?" one officer asked, amazed. Ethan just smiled faintly. "An old job," he said. Later that day, a young officer returned to the coffee cart. "Sir," he said respectfully, "were you military?" Ethan poured him a fresh cup of coffee. "Yes," he replied. "What unit?" the officer pressed. Ethan paused, then shook his head gently. "One that doesn't need remembering." Word spread. People started stopping at his cart not to laugh, but to listen, to thank him, to shake his hand. They saw him differently now, but Ethan didn't change. He still arrived early. He still poured his coffee with care. He still stood quietly as the world rushed past. Because strength, he knew, doesn't need to shout. And sometimes the most dangerous men in the world are the ones you'd never expect. Never judge someone by their appearance. Some warriors don't wear uniforms anymore. Some heroes sell coffee in silence. Thanks for watching, and if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more.